Hey, friends.
Hey.
Thanks for tuning in to the. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Thanks for tuning into the Behind the Gate podcast. We're back. Had a little hiatus. Well, there was a gap in the schedule with Easter, and then we were both really shitty. So, welcome back. Here we go. We're back in the swing. We're just coming off of New Jersey Supercross, and we will get into all the nitty gritty. But first, guys, it's coming up on, and girls, it's coming up on springtime. Riding season is going to be in full swing if it's not already for you. Do yourself a favor, whether you're on a motocross bike, a road bicycle, a mountain bicycle, you have an off-road truck, or you just want to throw some cool stuff on your regular truck, go to Maxxis Tires and check them out. Their stuff is top of the line. They're an awesome company. They've showed AJ so much love and support this season. And quite frankly, they're some of the best tires out there, if not the best tires out there. It's what I run exclusively on all of my equipment now, both off-road, on-road, no matter what. I got to pick some up for my Jeep. That is what I have to do. But go check them out. I mean, whether you're on a mountain bike, whether you're on a dirt bike, they're the absolute best tires that I've ever run. And I know AJ can speak to that too. And why don't you do that, AJ?
And I just put some on my road bike and tested them out a couple days ago. The road bike tires even darn good. So I have them on everything. I think they're sending me some sweet ones for my truck, so I'm going to have Maxxis everywhere. It's just one of those, and I say it time and time again, it's one of those companies that is, they want to really go heavy back into the Supercross again. I think they were in the early 2000s. And they wanted to do it with the privateer, which I think that speaks a lot about a company. Or they're just smart and see the value that a privateer can offer it. A much lower
Absolutely.
cost, right? But just a great group of people and a great product. I mean, I had ran another tire my entire career leading up to that point. I think mostly for the fact that I didn't know what the other options were. And now that I've tried Maxxis, I'm so glad that I did.
It is one of those things. It's kind of funny that, and we've said it before, you get really loyal to a tire brand for whatever reason, or you get confident and comfortable on a tire, and it makes it really hard to switch. It's kind of like a dogma in this sport. And I'll tell you what, take the leap of faith. You get complacent. You take it for granted that there might be something else out there that might do you better. So do yourself a favor, break with the tradition, take the leap of faith, check them out, run them. You will not be disappointed.
Yes,
and also to our listeners, thank you for your support. For that support, you get rewarded. Go to FXR, another company that is integrally involved in AJ's program. He runs their gear. Hands down, in my opinion, the best looking motocross gear out on the track today. And I know we have the big names like Fox, and we have all those guys who look pretty flashy, but it's honestly, I think FXR stuff stands out better. Their colors, their schemes, it looks sick. It performs exceptionally well. AJ, you've talked about how comfortable it is many, many times before. And listeners of this podcast can get 30% off of any purchase on FXR. Use this code ACFXRMX80. 30% off is a great deal, guys. That is current season, maybe some stuff that would not necessarily go on sale right now. You could get 30% off just by listening to this podcast, supporting us, supporting FXR. It's a big, lovable community. We want to help you out. You help FXR. It's a big circle. Go get some FXR gear.
Yes, sir. I would say the only problem with FXR is that so many privateers are realizing how darn good it is. This weekend, coincidentally, we all ran the same colorway in time qualifying, and the person I had filming my qualifier kept filming the wrong guy in a Kawasaki because we have the same FXR gear on. I was like, dang it, I wore the wrong color. For some reason, all the Kawi guys wore there's like this sweet neon green color. We all wore the same kit. So my filmer's filming everybody but me. I'm like, son of a gun.
Well, and then it gets me every time. Who's on number 80? I keep forgetting. But they're on 80, FXR, Kawi.
Heath Harrison. Yeah, that was really confusing at the beginning of the season.
Oh, the beginning of the season. I still do it. I don't know
I would
why.
see hole shot pictures and think that it was me, and it would take me
And then
like a
you're
good
quickly
bit.
like, no, I'm not that fast anymore.
No, I didn't get that good to start.
No.
But he had a rye helmet, FXR gear. His bike looked very similar to me. I was number 80 last year, just if you guys are wondering what I'm talking about. I think he
Back
hasn't
when you
done the
were
last
good.
few races. Yeah, back when I'm
Yeah.
regressing. But 2020, I'm only fast on even years. So this was 19. I was in a bit of a slump. 20, we're gonna be fast again.
Well, that brings up a good point. Are you going to be doing any outdoors this year? I want you to.
I really
At
I
least
would
do
love to do
Southwick.
I would love to do Southwick and Budds Creek, even though I'm not a huge fan of Budds Creek. It's like 25 minutes from my house, and I love Southwick. Um, the only problem is it's really expensive to just go do one race because you have to get your full season's credential. The
Mm-hmm.
race itself isn't cheap, it's 250, $300. And just getting a bike, you're race ready for one event, even if it's just, I get graphics for free and a lot of that stuff for free, thankfully, but sometimes I have to pay rush shipping, and next thing you know, it's costing, $1,800 to go race for a day.
You only have to get rush shipping if you don't plan ahead. You know that,
Well,
right?
yeah, that's a good point.
Which you have a real problem doing. I mean, just plan ahead.
Yeah,
No rush
yeah,
shipping. You can do it right
true.
now.
Wow,
Line it up.
never thought of that, man.
Wow, I know. Novel.
But I'd like to.
Um,
But I
so
also
what
would
is
like to be prepared and not just show up and race. That is fun, and
right?
that's a fun challenge to put on myself. But man, I don't know. I'm so confident in that bike, and I'm confident in my skills outdoors. If I just can ride for a couple weeks before, I think I could do really well.
So let me ask you this question. You're after Vegas, you're gonna really start going full bore into the schools. And you don't usually take a bike and ride at these things. I mean, you jump on other people's bikes, you kind of demonstrate technique and stuff, but you ever think of throwing a bike in the back of your truck or having a bike waiting for you and putting some actual seat time in?
Yeah, this year that's what I'm gonna do. So last year, I would say the first and years previous, um, I would show up no gear, nothing. I wouldn't touch a bike unless I really had to demonstrate something, and I would just toss on somebody's helmet and just do it in casual clothes, like slow, obviously. And then at the end of last year, I kind of took a note out of Rhino's book, and I saw he was riding like a lot at every school. I didn't want to ride that much because then I felt like I was taken away from what I was supposed to be teaching. But you know, at class, not only could I use this to my advantage and actually get seat time on a bike, but I feel like for these students, a lot of them might be visual learners and they just want to see how it's done. Or, they're just excited to have a pro racer at their track teaching a school and they just want to see somebody hit the section faster than, they thought they thought it could be hit.
Right.
So this year I plan to actually bring my bike to the classes. If I have to fly in, I'll absolutely bring my gear and just plan to steal people's bikes throughout the day a little more frequently. This year, I'm going to structure my classes a little different anyhow, where in the past I stayed very strict to the structure. And no matter what turn we worked, if we were working braking, we weren't getting into that specific turn or that specific section. I was just talking the general basics of that technique, so braking. This year, I'm actually going to get super specific about the section we're working. So talk about where you'd want to sit in this specific section or where you're getting your downshifts, just to explain to people, yeah, there's a way you can do it 80% of the time if the track is this way. But if you're thrown into a situation where you have to do this, then you at least know how to do it. I know I just rambled forever, but
no, it's okay. I think it's important, especially now that you're going to be starting up the classes and you're booking. I mean, you're booking well in advance now. You have some cool guests. You just booked Jeremy Martin. Oh wait, no, that wasn't a academy, right? That was just like a nightly course at Tomahawk.
No, that'll be a full day one. I'm going to do a few there this year. I don't know why I haven't in years past. Last year I just did one big one with Rhino, which went amazing. Year before that, I think I did one big one with Brett Q. But I mean, I'm an hour away. Why don't I do more there? they get a
I
lot of
think it's a reasonable, and I think a lot of people who really want to go to one of your classes and see the benefit in it, they're willing to drive 2, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever. It's not
right.
that bad of a
We're
drive.
located, not far from Washington D.C., not far from Baltimore, not all that far from, um, I think Pittsburgh. It's actually fairly centrally located, and we have not had an issue there in the past as far as selling out classes. I just never booked more. I don't. It was like too easy. I don't know, and I want to make it hard on myself and travel everywhere. But this year, I'm
Well, that and
definitely
your
gonna do a few.
guests can make an easy commute out of it from going into DC as opposed to some like little obscure
Right.
airport
I
somewhere.
live 5 minutes from a Dulles Airport, major airport. Um,
Yep.
I have a nice apartment they could stay in. It's just super convenient. And the bonus with this one is I can afford to pay out the big name guys with little risk. So my overhead for this, Chad helps me out a ton with track rental. So I pay next to nothing for track rental. Um, and it's right next to my house. So I'm not paying for flights or hotels or anything like that. So
Hmm.
even if for whatever reason, it doesn't sell that much and I just break even after paying out the rider, at least I can use that as promo, have a guy come in and do some video and really sell the fact that, hey, we're having 2-time national champ Jeremy Martin here. I think
Right.
that's why the school has grown to the point where it has, because it has that accreditation at this point. Last year I had Cianciarillo, Dean Wilson, Christian Craig. I've had a ton of really fast guys
And you just had
come to the
Weston
class.
Pike.
Just had Weston Pike. I mean, and it's at the point now where these riders are reaching out to me and asking if they could come to one. So, I mean, how cool is that? Yeah, I pay them a
Yeah,
lot
that's
for one
awesome.
day of work, but at the end of the day, I think they realize that it is very rewarding and it's actually really fun to do.
And it's stuff that a lot of these guys and kids in particular really need to hear, and they need to hear it from somebody who's at the top. There's only so much the moto dad can really teach them without um, having that experience at a top level. And I like the videos that you were doing. And sorry, everybody, to ramble on about this and patting AJ's back about it, but it really is such a fundamental part of the sport that AJ offers such a niche for in the training. In the videos, one in particular that I found really beneficial to a young rider is the one where you were trying to teach wheel chatter, and some of the kids were slipping off the seat or standing up. They couldn't do it without standing up, and that was a function of them not gripping the bike hard enough with their legs. And that's something like, when you look at all this stuff from the outside, without your experience and your ability to convey what needs to be done, the average person would never ever pick up on that, has absolutely zero clue about it. But when you break it down and you say, yeah, you want wheel chatter, but if you're standing up, if you find that you cannot do it sitting down, well, that's a direct function of you not gripping the bike hard enough with your legs. And like, that's something that is such an easy fix once you realize it and hear it, but you might never thought about before.
Right.
So stuff
The
like
thing
that.
is, all of it is such easy fixes, to the point where I thought a lot of this stuff was so obvious that I would never even think to explain it to somebody. But then when you realize, wait a second, people are not looking at it this way. They don't even realize what's going on here. I just try to break things down as clear and precise and as basic as you possibly can. And a lot of this stuff, if something's happening, you think there's some secret sauce or some crazy thing you have to do to fix it, when in all reality, most of these fixes are very, very simple.
And it really speaks to, I know it's funny, we're going to come back to this. We've talked about it before. But it's the truth. It's if you don't have a trainer, if you're a kid and maybe your dad didn't ride, maybe your parents weren't involved in the sport, maybe you're just starting out and you're only relying on what you're seeing. That's the biggest thing, is people emulate what they see. And if they're only seeing it and they don't have a grasp on what they're actually looking at, well, then that could create really bad habits, a dangerous scenario. And I hate to say it, but it's true. A lot of the kids and guys, they see the flashy stuff. They see the jumps. They see the whips. They see the stuff that they're like, oh yeah, that's awesome, I want to do that. But they let every fundamental go by the wayside because of it.
Yeah, you've seen that a lot lately with just cornering techniques in just younger kids, and the amateur riders don't seem to be quite there. There's a few where you can tell they've excelled to the point beyond where anyone was when I was an amateur, because they're focusing and training with top level trainers, and that's what they're focused on. But then you have like the Instagram niche where, yeah, these guys can whip a bike like people couldn't do 10, 15 years ago, but then you try to have them hit a corner 10 times and they might be able to get one good one,
All
but
over.
the other
Yeah.
9 are all over the place. And with me, I always stress, like, I want you to be able to go hit that turn 100 times and maybe only mess it up 3 or 4 of those 100 times. Where before, yeah, you could hit it 6 times out of those 100, blazing fast, get a cool video or a cool picture, but then you're going to crash 25 of the times. You're going to make major mistakes 42 of the times.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just no like, you can't repeat that. So,
Yep.
I even had, it was pretty cool that last weekend in Jersey, Blake Baggett came up to me right before he was about to go out for his qualifier. When at this time, usually no one's talking to each other, just kind of looking up at the screen. He comes over, he taps me on the shoulder. He goes, "Dude, I really love those how-to videos that you do." And I was like,
Oh, really?
I go,
It's
"Really?"
awesome.
I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think it's so cool how well you explain it, and the sport just needs more of that. I just think it's awesome." And then I just joked around with him. I'm like, "Yeah, just keep watching. Hopefully you can take something from it one day." But it was just kind of crazy to get that acknowledgement from a top rider, like that they didn't think it was corny, or they actually thought like, "Hey, wow, you're doing a great job of explaining this, and this is what we need."
Yeah, I mean, I hate tooting your horn because your head is big enough already, but you really do. That is one of your best skills, is to be able to explain that stuff, break it down. So look, when's your next school? And give people a little sense of what to expect this year, how to find it, all that good stuff. And then we're going to talk about Saturday.
Yeah, enough about me. Go to ajcatanzaro.com and we'll have pretty much all the schools that are coming up within the next month and a half listed. There are a bunch later this summer that we don't have on the site yet. Next weekend, next weekend, May 11th, we're back at the Stalinas Ranch, which is in Broadbrook, Connecticut. Amazing private facility, coolest track in Connecticut.
I might make an appearance. It is my birthday.
Ooh, wait, is your birthday on the 11th?
Yeah.
Oh, dang. That'd be cool. Do a little
Only if you
century
bring your
ride day
bike.
before? Yeah, I will.
Yeah, exactly.
So May 11th, we got Salinas Ranch. That following Wednesday, which I think is the 15th, will be at New Jersey Field of Dreams in Millville, New Jersey. That's a 4-hour class. Then that same Friday, Saturday, which I think is the 17th, 18th, we're going to be at 80K Adirondack MX. That's in Fort Anne, New York. And that's a 2-day class. I think it's only $300 for the 2 days. And then pretty much after Vegas this weekend, we're all summer long. I'm going to try to not go as crazy as I did last year, but I say that, and then once they start booking, and then I book more. And yesterday, I just had an idea to text Alex Martin and ask for his brother Jeremy's number, and he gives it to me. I asked Chad, the owner of Tomahawk, if we could do a camp. I come up with a date, and within 10 minutes, I now have this camp. June 20th.
But where does Jeremy live?
Minnesota.
Okay. So why not ask Alex Martin to do it?
Because I did one with Alex last year.
Okay.
And Alex did great, but I just like to mix it up, get people excited about somebody different.
Mm-hmm.
And nice. Alex is also racing outdoors, where I don't believe Jeremy is racing outdoors. Yeah. So it just gives him more time. Speaking of people that aren't racing outdoors, Austin Faulkner is going to be my next target. Since he's getting surgery, he's going to have some downtime. I really want to get him for a class.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That would. And we'll get to him. So here we go. Let's dive into Saturday. Crazy race again. Cooper Webb is the luckiest guy on the planet. Although, and they even a couple of the guys, I think it was Ricky and Daniel, on the broadcast, like, nope, luck isn't a thing. You kind of make your own luck at this point, which I agree with, and I think you would too. But
Yep.
I mean, for crying out loud, like, I don't know, man. Every single thing has gone his way. Everything. There's something mystical happening. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a
Yeah.
religious guy, but I know Cooper is. Something's going on. Like,
It's just that energy. That's what I believe in. Like the energy of him just believing it's his at this point. And
Yep.
that combined with him, executing absolutely perfect. It's hard to beat that. I mean, shoot.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. Let's go back. Let's talk about. I know we just talked about you for a long time. Let's talk about you again. How are you feeling? Because I mean, so our last episode was a few
Right.
races ago.
It was
and
before I
your
tried to
first
race.
one. Yeah. Was it before you tried to race? Was that
Yeah.
the last one?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So in that time, for those of you who don't know, I mean, AJ had a pretty, I would say, significant injury, although it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Right.
To the average person, it was not a good time. Broken scapula, 2 broken ribs, broken wrist, as it turns out, concussion. What am I missing? Punctured lung.
Punctured lung and separated shoulder.
Separate each other. So a nice laundry list of stuff that would prevent people from getting on a motorcycle. You, on the other hand, go out and you ride shit. When was that now?
I took 1 week off.
Denver.
So,
Was it Denver?
yes, it was Denver that I attempted the ride. I took off Nashville, and then to everyone's surprise, I was like, you know what, screw it. I just want to do Denver. I just want to give it a shot. So we show up there on a borrowed bike nonetheless. And I didn't know. I mean, I hadn't attempted to ride before that. I'd done a couple road bike rides that week, which kind of hurt. And I was like, yeah, I could get out there, do 2 laps and not be able to continue, or, I might be able to rough it out. I really didn't know. So get out there, first lap of time qualifying, and double everything in the first lap. I actually hit the Supercross triple on the first lap, which I don't even always do that. And I skimmed the whoops first lap. And I was like, holy cow, like it hurt, but I'm like, this is manageable. I think I might be okay. My left wrist was hurting a lot, and I didn't know why at the time. And I ended up going 2 or 3 laps. I caught up to first in that practice. I'm like, well, okay, this is kind of crazy. Like, well, how am I the fastest guy in this practice right now? And then I end up flying off the side of the whoops because so it was snowing. We could talk about that in a second. And the whoops were so slippery that I started to go to the left and I couldn't correct it. And I just went right off the track, caught a hay bale, and then like pile drove myself right onto my bad shoulder. Thankfully, I landed on the side of one of the jumps, which they hadn't packed down. So I just like shouldered into just some nice soft dirt. But I laid there for a second, kind of like felt it out. And I'm like, okay, that hurt, but not that bad. Like, I think I'm okay. And then I was able to kind of salvage the rest of the day. Halfway through the day, I had the Alpine Star Medical guys x-ray my left wrist because it was hurting more than anything. Turns out I had a break in my left wrist, so that just added to all the injuries. Ugh. But made it through the rest of the day. I was running 5th or 6th in the LCQ, and I actually had to wave Adamantic not by because I wasn't tripling any of the rhythms. I didn't want to be in anybody's way, but I was naturally kind of just going fast enough to where I was up there, which was kind of bizarre. So I waved a couple guys by, settled into 7th, and got freaking 7th somehow. Didn't triple anything.
I mean, not terrible.
No, I was so proud of the way I rode and like pushed through it and was smart about. I really wanted to hit those triples because obviously I was capable of doing so, but I forced myself not to the whole day just to be safe. I did everything right, and the guys were right in front of me to make the main event. I couldn't believe it. But if I had made the main event, I had nothing. My punctured lung with the elevation in Denver, I couldn't breathe. Everything hurt.
Yeah.
I would have just done a couple laps and pulled off. So it's almost better that I didn't take somebody's spot.
Yeah. So Denver was, I don't want to get too bogged down with Denver because we have a lot to talk about from Saturday, but it snowed. I think that's the first time Supercross race ever, or I mean,
Somebody
that I
said
can
that it
remember.
snowed in 2010 somewhere. I forget where they said. I don't think it was to this extent because I had never seen it. But in
Maybe
Denver,
snowflakes in the air, but this has like accumulation on the track.
accumulation on the track, which is freaking crazy, and snowing hard. I mean, like you couldn't see that far in front of you. Um, and I was all excited about it, even though this made my injuries hurt even worse. It was just another variable to throw in the mix with the borrowed bike and the injuries and all that good stuff. Um, but I'm like, dude, if anybody's used to this, it's me. I mean, I trained in Tomahawk all last year in 8-degree, 10-degree weather with it snowing outside. Like
Yep.
I was like, it's 33 right now. It's freaking warm compared to what I'm used to. Like compared to all these guys from Florida and California that are freaking out right now. I'm like, this is a good thing. And it
Yeah.
was funny before the practice, and I was prepared. I had my Morvello thermal cycling tights on that go all the way down my ankle. They go all the way up into overalls. I had an Under Armour on under that with a thermal layer above that. And then I had hand warmers tucked into the top of my gloves, like resting on my knuckles, which is another trick that I do because I don't like to wear the thicker winter style gloves because the palms are thicker. So I just shove a hand warmer into my knuckle, and that helps. I was toasty, but there was guys coming up to me. Mike Alessi came up to me before the first practice, and he's like, "I'm freaking out, man." He's like, I don't know what to do. My hands are frozen. I can't feel anything." And he was holding on to hand warmers. And I go, "Give me your hand warmers." And I had him open up his glove, and I helped him open his glove. And I'm shoving these little hand warmers into Mike Alessi's like knuckle of his glove.
Oh, you're so
And
sweet.
he gets them in place, and it's a little weird at first. And he's like, "Dude, I think this is it. I'm gonna run them." I'm like, "Just keep them in there the whole time. Ride with it like that. Everything." I said, "Just don't give away my secret."
We take for granted so much, like for people who grew up and live and ride exclusively in warm climates. Like everybody, all the top guys are in Florida, they're in California or Carolinas. It's
Right.
like you know,
And
we've ridden in some harsh conditions up here.
yeah, and the only time, think about it, the only time those guys even see weather like that for a second is if we fly into one of these stadiums like Minneapolis or Indianapolis where we're racing inside, but it's snowing outside. These guys don't deal
Yep.
with those conditions, hardly at all. So
Yeah.
that was interesting. But Denver was forever ago. Let's talk. Let's talk Jersey.
Yes.
You want to talk about me
So
some more? Because I have a little. Yeah, this has to do
well,
with
let's.
track.
So okay. Well, how did you feel going into New Jersey? So you're in the midweek training. You're on your bike. You just did a ride the other day, which I found pretty funny because you updated everybody on social media as you did it. Your riding partner seemed to suffer a little harder than you did.
Yeah, poor Luke. One of my buddies he just moved to Vienna, which is the town over from me. So we go out on a ride. He's typically really good, especially in the flats. He's a bigger build. So he's got good power and he can sustain that in the flats. We end up going out to DC. We do a couple loops in DC, and we're on the way back. We're like, 40 miles in, and he hadn't eaten much that day, and he was, I just feel like slightly dehydrated. But he has an issue where he gets really bad Charlie horses, and I have the same problem. I'm talking like I'll get a leg that'll lock out and Charlie horse up, and it is so severe, and there's nothing I can do. Like you can't massage it, you can't massage the thing out, you can't bend your leg or try to straighten it more, or else it'll just seize up even more. You have to just kind of sit there and wait for the pain to go away. It's so extreme. But I started taking these
You
salt
need
pills.
salt is one thing. You get your potassiums, your other salts, your sodiums, but what it does not have that is linked to preventing cramps is magnesium.
Hmm.
You should take one of the tricks is to take Rolaids. Rolade, like the antacid.
Yeah.
Rolade are known to be a cramp preventer and cure. So if like you're feeling dehydrated, or if you're going out on a really strenuous thing and you're prone to cramping, pop Rolaids and bring some with you.
Let me see
They're
what
almost a
because I have this
miracle
Rhino
cure.
Power electrolyte pill that is the same exact thing as Metasalt. I used to use Metasalt. I'll pop like 10 to 15 of these things a day. and I've never cramped since. So let me see what they have in them. Oh yeah,
See,
they have magnesium, 12 milligrams, not a crap ton, but a little bit. Some potassium, a lot of sodium, and a lot of selenium.
Hmm.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Phosphorus, calcium,
Yeah.
vitamin B6, vitamin D3.
Sweet. Yeah, but for people out there who like suffer from leg cramps even at night or whatever, Rolaids.
Yeah, well, you need something that's going to retain the water, and that's what electrolytes are designed to do, right? No, I don't know.
Correct. Well, yeah, you got it.
Or else you're just going to pee the water out. And you could drink water all day long, and you're not going to be hydrated, especially if you're an athlete that's out there sweating. So yesterday, Luke and I did a slightly longer than normal ride, and it was hot. Yesterday it was mid 80s here. It's supposed to get even warmer.
Dang, I'm jealous, dude. It's 54 here, and I think that's as warm as it's gonna get today.
Really? Yeah, it's supposed to
So
hit
bad.
almost 90 today, I think.
What? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, weird. Sometimes I'm in DC, Bryce is in Connecticut. Sometimes that difference makes it makes no difference, and other
No
times
difference.
it could be
Could
25 degrees.
I know we could literally have the same winter storm, or AJ could be 90 and I could be 50.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Weird. Well, anyhow,
So
I've
anyway,
been feeling
yeah.
I've been feeling good. He had mega leg cramps, so we had to keep stopping so he could lay down on the ground. But I've been, the week before that, I think the week before Denver, so that would have been pretty much the week right after I got hurt. I think I did 9 hours on the road bike that week, or 8. Like I've actually been putting some decent time, and I've been feeling good. My injuries, other than my lung, hadn't felt like they had healed much going into this weekend in Jersey. I could sneeze now, so that was like, thank God, because especially here in DC, there's pollen everywhere, so I could sneeze. But other than that, like my shoulder range of motion, I've had good range of motion. It's just been really darn sore. Like I can't reach certain directions. My wrist really hadn't improved much, and on track walk, I noticed right away at Jersey that this track was way more technical than Denver. I think what people don't realize is, looking back on it, it was still kind of a miracle that I was able to get out there and race my dirt bike with how crappy I felt. But that was the best case scenario as far as track. It was by far the easiest layout of the year. Whoops were super easy. The rhythms you could get away with not doing the big rhythms and just doubling stuff, and it was slower, but it wasn't that much slower. It was just best case scenario. Where Jersey, pushed 2 weeks now in the future, I should be more healed up, is the absolute worst case scenario. 2 gnarly sets of whoops. Track is rutted. Rhythms are big. Triple's even big. You have 2 wall jump things where you just jump into the face of the next wall. That doesn't feel that great.
Yeah.
It's windy. It's kind of cold outside. It really was just the worst combination of things for my injuries. So this weekend, like in Jersey, I was in far more pain than I was at in 2 weeks prior, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And I mistimed my Toradol shot. So before first time qualifier, I couldn't find the medical rig. So it wasn't until like 10 minutes before the qualifier that I got the shot. So
whoa,
it
back
hadn't
it up.
kicked in yet.
How do you not find that massive red trailer?
So the pit area was in one spot, but you had to walk through into the tunnel and then go like, a fourth of the way around the stadium. And then it was tucked in the security. Like it was really difficult to find. It was not in the pit area.
Interesting.
So I finally found this thing right before practice, got the shot, but it hadn't kicked in yet for that first practice.
Too late. Yeah.
So yeah, rough go.
Well, that's
weekend,
a bummer.
Lots of pain, but I do feel better now. Not to mention I did end up landing on it. Well, we can get into that in a minute, but I feel slightly better now. I'm just a little concerned about my rotator cuff in that shoulder. There's certain directions that I can't lift my arm or reach my arm. So
man, you're falling apart. Now, are you gonna get that looked at, or are you gonna do the typical AJ and just just race next weekend, and maybe you'll address at some point.
Maybe I don't know. I'm not going to get it looked at yet, but if the issue continues and I'll be smart about it. If it's not really improving, I'll be forced to go get an MRI. I haven't gotten an MRI in that shoulder yet. So I don't know what the heck it looks like. I've just been waiting.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So the plan, I mean, going into Vegas, you're feeling pretty good. Other than that, I mean,
yeah, I should be fine. My injuries I think will feel better than they did at MetLife, even though I landed on that shoulder and that hurt. I don't think I did any more damage to it. So I want to end the main event. I want to end the season with the main event. Like, just end on a good note. At the very least, I'm in third for this pulp points thing. If I get fifth, and Brennan, the kid who's in second, gets outside the top 10 in the LCQ, or if he gets 10th or back, I'll bump up to second. And that's like the difference between $1,800 and like $7,000.
No kidding.
So
wow.
that wouldn't hurt either.
Yeah, for sure. Talk a little bit more about the track, because you mentioned the track was technical. A lot of talk, especially on the broadcast, about the dirt itself. So looked a little rocky. Some guys were running handguards, some weren't. Looked pretty loose. A couple guys, tucked the front end. How did you like the dirt? How did you like the track, how in the maintenance of it, and how it broke down or held up and all that?
There's a lot of good dirt in New England, so it's surprising that the dirt sucked, really. But that was also a product of the track being tarped. So what happens, they tarp the track when they're expecting inclement weather. It keeps the top parts of the jumps extremely dry and hard packed. They pack it in before they tarp it. So what'll happen is that'll just kind of get baked over and become dusty, which in practice the track was super dusty up top. But then in the pockets, you'll still have those puddles, and you'll get those soft spots in between. So you're kind of dealing with those two different things, with which sorry, I'm distracted here. I'm watching that they were just showing me on the start. So you're going from those soft pockets to the hard pack takeoffs, which then it's sketchy. That track was deceivingly difficult. Not to mention the whoops were extremely difficult, which I wish there was whoops like that at every race, because it was so fun. It was separating people so much, and I felt it was awesome in them all day long. I felt so good.
Arguably, those whoops single-handedly is the reason why Cooper Webb is going to win this championship, right? You could make that argument.
Yeah, well, granted, if Tomac had passed him like he was going to again, or never let him back by, and Webb finished where he did, it wouldn't have affected the points that much because he'd still have such a big cushion. But I read an article on Racer X with Ryan Sipes talking about how if the whoops were skimmers more often this year rather than jump whoops, that Cooper Webb wouldn't be the champion. And that's probably the truth, because that would give Webb's been struggling to skim. Mooskin's notoriously not been good at skimming. Where guys like, Dean Wilson, Tomac, those type of dudes, did I say Roxon? Roxon, those guys,
taller guys,
skim whoops like it's nobody. What's that noise?
Can you hear that?
Yeah, it sounds like you're.
Oh, I was clicking a mechanical pencil.
It sounds like you're making some crazy mouth noise.
I don't know.
It sounded like
dude. I don't know. It's sometimes like I don't understand how you could hear some of the stuff I do. Like sometimes you hear my chair creak, I can't hear it, and you can hear it, and I'm just clicking a mechanical pencil in my hand, fidgeting.
These Turtle Beach
headphones. Anyway, I'll stop.
Top of the line,
bro. I'm wearing the same exact ones.
Same color and everything, right? Oh, yours
yeah,
black and green.
Well, clearly. Do they make other colors? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Anywho, what were we talking about? Skimming whoops, jumping whoops. Yeah, so most of the guys resorted to jumping. Tyler Bowers was jumping the whoops, which I've never seen Tyler Bowers jump a set of whoops in my life. But this year, I don't know why. Maybe it has to do with bike setup, and you can see the difference between Tomac's bike jumping through the whoops and a Webb or Muskin's bike jumping through the whoops. It looks not good. Tomac's bike is super rigid. It's deflecting. That's why he's getting sent side to side. Probably why he fell off the track twice in the same exact way.
It was literally like deja vu. It looked exactly the same. He did exactly the same thing twice.
Because he landed in the same rut, and he probably had his weight off-centered a little bit, but the bike just freaking deflects him to the side. Where you watch Muskin or Webb jump through whoops, and the bike it's flexing, it's pushing through, it's not deflecting because it doesn't look too stiff. It looks amazing, those KTMs jumping through the whoops, and some of the other bikes too. But you see like the factory Yamahas, factory Kawis, the Suzukis, the Honda, I don't know, they look very rigid when they go to jump through. Mm-hmm. So that's why I've kind of aborted on jumping through any of the whoops this year. I've skimmed them no matter what. But last weekend in Jersey, I felt really good in both sets. Like I had no issue at all getting through the whoops. And that was the only part of the track where I felt good on. Everywhere else, I wasn't doing the rhythms. I was just doubling the rhythms. But then we get to the whoops, and I was gaining like 2 to 3 seconds on a guy in front of me in the LCQ, and then he'd be faster than me the rest of the track.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting how like those little sections can be such difference makers. Or, I think, and you see it every season, but this season in particular, you'll see guys. I mean, really, the race is won and lost in the whoops. Mm-hmm. And I think this season more than other seasons, you've had head-to-head battles directly side by side, and I see it almost. I would say more in the 250s, where you have like Cirillo, and who was chasing him that time. But there's a few instances where the 250s, especially, guys are side by side, and the whoops are the difference makers. Mm-hmm. The Ferrandis had a couple of those. And I guess maybe it's a function of we haven't had too many battles like that in the years past, and maybe this year it's just more front and center. But I feel like the whoops this year have been such a talk, whether they've been too big or not big enough or weirdly spaced. It's definitely has a different vibe this year.
And they should be a major function of the track. It's Supercross. Like the whoop should always be a staple. I think they should always be gnarly and difficult to get through, and they should always be the separator because that's Supercross. Yeah, there's a difference between that and making them just straight up dangerous. I think typically the more technical, the bigger that they are, the less dangerous they'll be because you're naturally not going to be skimming them a million miles an hour. Where when they're small, that's what happens is the guys just hit them so darn fast. That's when it gets dangerous. Like the speed Malcolm Stewart was hitting the whoops, and where was that? San Diego? Phoenix. In Phoenix, when he crashed, he was hitting those whoops like 45 miles an hour. It's much safer to have a set of whoops like Seattle, where you're starting to skim them right at the turn. They go the whole length of the straightaway. It's nearly impossible to build more momentum in whoops like that. Or you have whoops like this weekend where same thing. They're so gnarly and technical. Guys are jumping through. Tomac crashed twice in the whoops, but he could have done that crash without any gear on and would have been fine. It's just more safe.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, at the speed of Malcolm Stewart crash, there's the littlest mistake. You have to be way more precise. And, you see what happens. And even Dean Wilson, like his crash, I think that wasn't in the whoops, was it?
No, but no, he had a bike issue as well. So did
no, but he went over the
so did Malcolm Stewart. I got confirmation.
Oh, did you?
That was a bike issue. And I had thought so because watching it in super
like
slow
a neutral thing, or
the person who told me did not say. Actually, yeah, they did say, but I shouldn't say, and I also shouldn't say who said
it. Okay.
I'll just say that he looks like Dave Drakes.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
I think we can. Yeah, I think we could. I could do that math. So I want to talk about one of the biggest topics of this past weekend, and that was Austin Forkner. He is out of it. And it was discussed in the broadcast. For those of you who are under a rock, Austin Forkner tore his ACL last round. Was it last round? 2 rounds ago. And he made the attempt to ride this week to preserve what he had left of the championship, which was a pretty decent cushion. And he pushed what I thought was way too hard in the main event. And he looked good in the heat. And we all know that he was nursing that torn ACL, which AJ, I mean, this is right up your alley because you've had an ACL injury. You've pushed through an ACL injury. You've ridden on an ACL injury. So, I'll give you the floor here and speak to what you think about how he was riding. But from what I saw, the second that main event started, and I'm like, okay, we know he's riding conservatively. We know he's injured. We know all he has to do is kind of salvage as many points as he possibly can. But he's charging unbelievably hard. And I guess that's maybe just kind of built into his psyche as a racer and the guy he is. But I was not surprised at all that he took himself out of that thing. Go.
Sorry, I'm eating Skittles.
No problem.
Hang on. Hold that thought.
Oh, my Lanta. Well, and let me go back to this.
I'm ready.
I think that those two walls were so stupid.
Yeah, I agree. But what would have been your play? What would have been your game plan? You're Austin Forkner. Give me your game plan for the heat race and for the main event.
Well, I think he made the right decision by riding the heat and riding the way he did. I didn't have a problem with that. They were talking, well, should he have went to the LCQ? And just, I think that was way too risky,
right?
To preserve or to wait for the LCQ.
And you agree with the way he rode in the heat race?
I mean, it wasn't too far off what he did in the main, but I do think that he seemed to be a little more conservative. He kind of he got himself in the he got himself to be right where he needed to be. Didn't press for more, and obviously that was the smarter and safer move. If what I think was missing, I mean, this is just speculating outside looking in, but there in his mind there must have been something that. And I had to imagine that somebody talked to him and said, like, look, know where you are on the track, know the obstacles, know your position, all the things that seem to be obvious. That wall jump, for him to have done what he did on that section of the track was the most frustrating thing for me to see, because it's like one of those areas that he just absolutely did not need to do what he did. It was just a function of pushing way too hard, not recognizing like that, okay, calm down, settle in. You're in the mix. You're up front. The main concern was Sexton, but yet it almost looks like he just totally messed that up. Like, comes out of that turn, hits that wall jump, and then just basically directly into the face of the other one. That just seemed like a silly mistake that was a function of him just not recognizing what he needed to do at that time. I don't know.
So I think he had the right idea as far as his game plan of the day. Heat race, he was conservative. I mean, watching that heat race in person, he was on the bubble there for a minute. I mean, he was in like 7th, and 8th and 9th and 10th were right behind him. And I was like, oh boy, this is a little too close. Last couple laps, he kind of bumped up. I think he ended up 4th. Did what he needed to do. Smart, perfectly executed. Main event, I think about it. It's different than if he were to go out and have raced after he got hurt in Nashville. That same mentality of go out, ride conservative would have been the move in Nashville. And just to get 8th place, 9th place, 10th place, that would have been amazing. But he's only up 3 points at this point. If Sexton beats you, you're tied. You're pretty much you're gonna have to beat Sexton's situation. And Sexton was on fire, so that means he's got to ride 95%, 100%. And he did, but the only thing I'll say is like his passes to the front, he made that pass on Sexton, which was ballsy, but like I think the right move. the only person he had left in front of him when he did make that mistake was Davalos. In hindsight, he could have been more patient and just waited a few more laps to make that pass happen. Or for Davalos to realize it's him, and knowing Martin probably would have just straight up moved over.
Okay. So what I would play devil's advocate is say, worst case scenario, he loses to Sexton. Maybe he loses a couple. Maybe Sexton still gets the point lead, but Faulkner's healthy and he can ride Vegas. And, that's a gamble. No pun intended. But he's at least still in the mix. Now it's over. You know what I mean? So he rolled the dice. And
there's no... The difference between Faulkner riding at 75% and 100% is the difference between him dominating these main events and him getting 8th place. So he can't just step it up a couple more notches and easily get second to Sexton. That wasn't like take it easy and second place is going to come. Like, it was either take it easy and get 10th or go for it and be like competitive for the win. I think what people take for granted is if you knock somebody off that absolute perfect 100%, like they're dialed in, they're all cylinders are firing, to just that 1% down, it's amazing the difference that you'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there was much more cushion. It was either he would just freaking go for it like he did, or ride around in 10th, which really wasn't an option. But this even more so proves my whole argument on this whole thing and what I would have done if I was him. Granted, every injury is different. Every person reacts different to it, even a very similar injury. We don't know how he felt. I mean, I've torn my ACL, but I haven't maybe done it the exact way he did it. It sounded like he had either a little chip.
I'm almost going to
bone.
stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there because I know where you're going, and I would say there would be absolutely no way on earth that he would pull off that track if he could have kept going. Knowing what was on the line, there would be just no possible way that he would pull off if he could keep going. And if you look back, like the way he impacted that face of that wall, and if you look where his knee was and what happened to him, and like knowing the ACL injury and what Ricky Carmichael was describing in the broadcast about your tib and fib and moving back and forth on your meniscus and all that stuff, which is all perfectly accurate.
Mm-hmm. Which I liked.
That was the worst. Huh?
I liked that they did that. I thought that was cool.
I did too. But the way he took himself out was probably the worst case scenario he could have done. It's something that the brace wasn't going to protect him against. So much force coming down off that thing. That was just the absolute worst case scenario, which brings me to something that I was going to bring up. They had mentioned something about that section, how the track design initially called for that to be a double, for them to jump the entire section.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they then spread them out too much because they didn't think that the 250s were going to be able to come in off the corner and have enough speed to actually clear it.
Yeah.
But then they brought them back together, and it ended up making such an awkward thing because I think that the wall coming off the turn, in my opinion, was too small. And maybe you could speak to that from riding it, but it was too small. So people were jumping it too big, and everybody just kept going way too far into the face of the next jump, and it bit Faulkner. I would have liked to have seen it either be a double or two proper walls.
Right.
Or maybe a sand section
not
between.
I
don't know.
A ski jump into a wall. Yeah. But to go back real quick on the Faulkner thing, I agree with that. And like the impact he had and the amount of pain he probably felt for that next, minute to 5 minutes to 10 minutes was, I'm sure, excruciating. And in that time, when you do it, even with the adrenaline pumping, you're going to be out of commission for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Maybe he could have lined up and tried it again in an hour, but for that 10 or 15 minutes, like that pain, you think you can go no further. And so I feel bad for him as far as catching flack for that because like that kid has heart. He wants to win at all costs, no matter what. He wanted this championship.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it would have just been the smarter play to go out and ride in Nashville because it was probably same situation, although it was first time he did it, so he was probably scared of that pain. All he had to do was go out and ride that main event or ride that heat race easy, get in the main event and ride the main event easy, get 10th to 12th place, score points, have a good cushion of a points lead going into this weekend where you could then, if you need to, maybe ride a tiny bit faster, get 7th, 8th, still have a points lead. And then in Vegas, boom, you're in the mix. All you have to do at that point is be close to Sexton or just in front of him, and you have the championship. I think that would have been the smarter play. He put so much pressure on himself by not racing that night and then coming back.
You'd have to think, like, I wonder, I mean, and I have no idea. This was well outside the scope of my medical knowledge, but is there any sort of like anesthetic that they can give locally to that? And I wonder if they did, they could just inject it into the knee and, I know you're probably way more apt to do a hell of a lot more damage. So it's like a cost benefit analysis there, but you got to wonder, like, this is the championship that never was. And it's so sad because of how dominant that he was. Unlike Cianciarulo, who he's kind of taken himself out of the dominance every once and again because he has had so many mental lapses. And I don't want to say so many because obviously he's ridden very well and he's dominated several races, but he seems to take himself out just more from mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like has a little bit more almost anxiety on the bike and kind of has mental lapses. Forkner didn't have that. And whatever he had was worked out in the practices. He had like a couple weird stuff happen in qualifiers. He, went off the bike, crashed on the whoops, whatever, in multiple qualifiers. But he was so dominant during the night show that it's just such a tragedy that he's out of it because it was his to lose right from the get-go.
Yeah, but that's a lesson too. Like, you can only get away with crashing so many times in that time qualifier before it bites you. Like, you can't say that when Forkner crashed in that whoop section in Nashville, you can't say, oh man, what bad luck. Like, the season was going his way. No, it's not bad luck because he was crashing like that every weekend in time qualifying. And in fact, was probably getting lucky that he wasn't getting hurt. Or on the contrary, like I take my hard hit in Houston. I never crash. And if I do, it's usually caused by somebody else. Like that, somebody could have said, man, that's kind of unlucky. Like everything was kind of going his way that day. How did he hit the ground like that? That would make sense. But when you're crashing every single weekend, riding
that's a good
over
point.
your head in that time qualifier, I'm sure he's got to learn from that, right?
You'd think.
But then again,
so now
there's such a fine line between like that ego and that arrogance of like, I need to win every time I hit the track and just being a complacent guy that rides in 3rd to 5th place. He's as dominant as he is on the bike because he has that ego. So it's like,
true.
That's tough to find a middle ground.
Real quick side note, what's the point situation in 250 East? I'm sorry, West, 250 West.
A handful. Let's look.
Let's see.
Are you bringing it up?
Yeah. I Googled it.
Okay, Google it.
I
think it's 3 or 5.
8 points.
Oh, it's 8.
It's 8 points.
Okay, so that's a little bit of a cushion, but at the same time, with the
little bit, but it's
shootout,
not going to take much.
Right.
This is not going to take much because you have, and this is how did the last shootout shake out? I wonder.
Cianciarulo's been beating people in the shootouts every year. That's all.
No, I mean, okay, all right. So if
the last shootout this
year,
Cianciarulo won the last shootout this year too. But it doesn't take much for a little mistake to happen, and Cianciarulo has proved that he's definitely capable of making those mistakes. He crashed in the first turn. It's going to be interesting.
No.
The East one's
with
basically
Forkner not in
wrapped
the mix
up.
on this one.
450's basically wrapped up. So at least there's one championship. That'll be exciting.
Just from like a race strategy point of view, if Faulkner's in it in Vegas,
He
and
won't
it's
be.
Cianciarulo, and no, I know,
Oh.
but listen to where I'm going with
Oh,
this.
sorry.
If he were to be in it, and Cianciarulo and Faulkner are 1-2, they're not, they're on different coasts, they're on different brands. There's different brands. They're on different coasts, and they have their own kind of thing going on, and they're on the same bike, they're on the same team. You'd have to think that they're not going to take each other out for the win, and B, they might have some racecraft blocking people behind them, just because those two guys are out front. So now that Faulkner isn't there, Cianciarulo is like the lone guy who's going to be presumably in the front. You have to wonder how Sexton's going to ride behind him, how Cooper is going to ride behind him, and even the guys on his own coast. Ferrandis is riding very, very fast, and Nichols. Like, you got to throw all this stuff in the mix. I'm really, really excited to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, it should be good. I love that the last race of the season that decides the championship is throwing all of them together. It just makes things so exciting. You don't even when you're there live watching it, you don't even know where to look on the track because there's so much math to do in your head, figure out where everyone's at.
Can you imagine though if Sexton wins the championship and he won one race this season? And I mean, great for him. Like, he had a great night the other night, first career 250 win. But man, you have to wonder. You have to wonder how, like, I guess a championship is a championship. But me, as being like kind of like the cynical pessimist I am, I almost want to put an asterisk next to it. I want to say, yeah, Sexton won, and we know he's a phenomenal rider. He has exceptional technique. He's obviously very fast, but your little asterisk is Sexton championship, Faulkner injured. You
wonder if that at the end of the season to him feels any less significant because of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know. Maybe he wins the championship, and ultimately, I'm pumped just to win that championship. I don't care how the heck I got it. I'm pumped to win this thing. But yeah, I guess. I mean, in the back of your head, and still, like, I would tell myself, to win the championship, you have to show up for every race. That's half the battle. That's why this sport is so difficult, is because of the injuries.
100%.
I earned the championship by not getting hurt, but
I was obviously slower the whole
time. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, strange. So, anything else in the 250s that was noteworthy, and you want to dive into, or do you want to get into 450s?
Can't think of anything right now. I'm watching the race back, so if the main event pops up and I think of something.
What about who was it that was backwards on the track and avoided catastrophe?
Oh, Josh Osby. I was trying to figure out how that happened. Oh, I don't know how he ended up. He landed in the whoops going backwards. So I don't know if he landed. Maybe he hit the triple side by side with somebody and they pushed him off the track, and then he launched the takeoff of that next little triple thing and flew on the other line. I'm not sure.
That was sketchy.
That's that's definitely a scary place to have happened. Oh,
you know what? Sorry.
Stuff. I don't know what you're gonna say. Sorry to interrupt, but did you see?
We're all over the place, scatterbrained today.
Did you see Scuba Steve, Stephen Clark crash while leading the LCQ with frickin' 2 turns to go? I keep saying frickin' in this podcast. Oh yeah, all he had to do was double through the section. He went on, off, and tried the triple. It cases it and falls. I
don't mean to laugh. But I think maybe it's nerves. Maybe it's
Yeah,
you never do know.
Yeah, that's Scuba Steve, man. He's experienced. He's been around for a while. You wonder why. Maybe he thought second place was right there, and in an LCQ, even though you theoretically you do have a cushion. You're in first, and you only need to get top 4. It can feel like you're in a rush and you need to win because the next 10 guys will be right behind you.
It's hard to diagnose any of this stuff. I mean, you could say, how the hell does Eli Tomac crash exactly the same way directly after he crashed that way already.
Yeah, it's just motocross. It's just the reason why the sport is so exciting is anything can happen. Anything can happen.
I think that to sum it up, I think just the balance of pushing hard and riding smart is so laser thin, razor thin. Sometimes it's like you have to be on the gas. You have to be able to take risks. You have to push as hard as you absolutely can. You have to kind of ride that edge. But the flip side of that coin is you're on the balance is that you can potentially cost yourself. And that's what Tomac did. I mean, he knew he had to push. He is obviously trying to salvage as many points as he possibly can, or gain as many points as he possibly can, however you want to look at it. And that edge bit him ultimately.
Yeah, it's like the age-old argument.
It's hard to like mentally.
James Stewart.
Yeah, it's hard to
like.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's like the age-old argument of James Stewart. Like, how many times could you have argued? Yeah, sure. If Bubba had just slowed down a little bit, he still would have won that race by a mile.
Yeah,
instead he crashed out. But that's just the way he rides, and any slower than that, and it'd probably be equally as dangerous, if not more dangerous, because now he's not like in his flow.
Right. Well, I think it's so easy to take for granted when you watch as a fan, especially as a fan who has never raced or never ridden on a motocross track or is just watching it without a lot of background, is like they make it look so easy all the time. And Tomac in particular, when he's on it, you're like, how the hell is this guy riding so fast? Because when he has those nights that he's just like, he takes turns and it is literally like his bike is a hovercraft and he just whips it around at 180 perfectly, like sailing through the air. Every single rhythm is spot on perfect. He's never casing anything. He's going through the whoops like freaking lightning bolt, and everything is so on point. It looks ridiculously easy. And then you have a night like Saturday night where he makes some pretty crucial mistakes at pretty critical times, and you see that these guys are human, and all of the emotions that we all feel, they feel on the track, and the nerves that they get, that we all get, they get on the track. And I think it's important to reiterate that the guys who are at the top and continue to be successful, the guys that are like Dungey, who are present in the moment. They don't think too much ahead. They don't think too much about the past. They ride in the moment, and they worry about hitting every mark when they need to. And what's happened has happened, and we can't predict the future. So just ride right now. And it just shines a light again on how dominant a guy like Dungey was, how consistent he was, and how impressive that is.
Right. And for whatever reason, we all take it for granted when it's happening. But this has been the season of like people showing that they're human. Even Webb did it in a way that was like you naturally saw his confidence build and then that kind of take over. So you saw that human aspect of it. You've seen Tomac this year completely mentally fold. You've seen guys like Baggett kind of have a roller coaster of like gaining the confidence, losing the confidence, gaining the confidence. Same thing with Barsha. I mean, we sound like broken records. We talk about it so much, but it is the absolute biggest part of probably any professional sport, but especially, I mean, look at Tiger Woods in golf and look at the point where he's at now. He didn't suddenly get better at golf again. He just is probably in a better, more confident place mentally, and then all of a sudden things start to click. And my bet is that he starts to get in a little bit of flow, and you'll probably find him regularly finishing up there, where he had a few year. I don't know. I know nothing about golf. I think he had a few years of like people thought Tiger Woods was never going to be up there again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he went through all that personal stuff and injuries, and yeah, it all just takes such a toll on your psyche. And we've talked about it so much on this podcast. The mental aspect of this stuff is so crazy. Did you happen to see did you watch the race back the broadcast.
Um,
Because Cooper Webb did an interview. They did an interview about Cooper Webb.
mhm.
Did you happen to see that?
Oh, like the little feature they did on him?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see it.
Okay. Sounded like you did. No, I mean, but I think what you took away from it was that, I mean, he was pretty down and out, and he was talking about how I think he was like literally in the hospital, recuperating, or had just got that leg injury last year, and he was like, I need something to change, and he acknowledged he's a religious guy. He prayed about it, and he was pretty down and out. I mean, he hadn't had done really anything on a 450 at all, and pretty disappointed with himself. And I think he said while he was recovering from that leg injury, or while he was in the hospital, even Roger DeCoster called him, and like just receiving that call, validated like that to him personally, that the universe was kind of listening to him, and there was a plan and all that stuff. Like, he needed a change, and here was an opportunity to change. But also, what I thought was more important was, he said, if he believes in me, then why don't I believe in myself?
Mhm.
And like, you have to wonder if it was just that belief that propelled him to where he is. Like, that was the initial spark that lighted the fire, that made him train harder, that made him, put more work into whatever it was in the off season.
Absolutely could have been.
Obviously, he's on a new bike. He's on a new bike, clearly, and we all know how I feel about KTM's. And like, it's just, you could only say so much about the bike, though. At the end of the day, he's a human being, and you just have to wonder, like, that little spark that Roger DeCoster calling him and validating to him, like, that somebody who's obviously at the top of the sport, believes in him enough, then that should be reason enough for him to believe in himself.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy how that stuff can do.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. That very well could have been it, for all we know. And it's not even like you could go ask him, because I don't think he would even. There's a possibility he wouldn't even be able to pinpoint that one moment in time where mentally he had that light switch go off. But that could have been it. It's so easy to lose that too. Doesn't take much but 2 or 3 races to start questioning yourself. And
Yep.
yeah, I deal with this crap every week.
Yeah, you probably more than anybody.
And it comes into play like in every aspect of life. I see it even just day to day on my road bike rides, where the mental state you start the ride in will kind of dictate how the ride goes. I mean, when you're in pain, where your mind goes can kind of, that will depend, that will like kind of like whether you can survive that ride or not is all based on not even necessarily your fitness level. It's just how much you're willing to push yourself through it in that period of time. Like yesterday, I started my ride and I felt good right off the bat, and I was just like, I was thinking positive the whole time. I was doing a good job like compartmentalizing like my distances as far as just creating checkpoints and ticking off goals, and the ride just flew by. And then there's some rides where you're looking at your power reading or your heart rate, and then you're looking at the mileage, and you're like, feel like you're forever in it, and it only says 3 miles, and you're like, wait, what? Those are the
I know there was a bunch of stuff that was happening on my Strava yesterday. You tagged me in that guy's ride. He did like 100 miles with like 8,000 feet of elevation. But then I don't know if you saw this, like my buddy Jake commented on one of my things, and he was like, dude, it's outdoor season.
Oh yeah.
Why are you still on the trainer?
Yeah,
I'm like, bro, it's 50 degrees. Like, that's not warm enough for me. I've turned into such a softie, but it's only because I think one of the like rides I did a few weeks ago was so cold and windy, and I was like, F this. Like, why would I do this if I could just go in my house? But my point is about that. He said, harden the fuck up is what he said.
Really?
I'm like, it is true. Like, if you go out and you're already like not feeling it, for me it would have been like I'm cold, it's windy, and I would think about that the entire time, and I would absolutely hate every second of it. And then I would get back and I would wish that I went inside. Like, so it's it is true that how your mental state is prior to getting into something really can have such a profound impact on your overall experience, your performance, the whole rest of the day after you're finished. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, and you could feel 20, 30 degrees colder than you actually are just because your mind's tricking yourself into it. The other day I went out for a ride, and the morning I was getting my cycling gear on. It was one of those days where like I took my shirt off and I'm like, oh boy, I'm kind of cold. Like I had the chills already just thinking about going outside. And then I went to go put my heart rate monitor on. The strap's cold on your chest sometimes. The strap
Yep.
was cold on my chest and like gave me the goosebumps. I'm like, ugh, like I couldn't even barely get the strap on my body. And I just went into that ride, even though I bundled up pretty good, considering it was only 55 degrees out, which most people just wore normal shorts and t-shirt. I was like, this is gonna be tough. Like in my mind, I'm already frozen and I haven't even stepped foot outside yet. It sounds stupid, but man, it's real. This is real stuff.
Yeah, well, back to Supercross.
What the heck were we talking about before that?
These but like Cooper Webb's mental state.
Yes.
And positive vibes and like, believing in yourself and all that stuff. And obviously he does. And I think he rode a really smart race the other night. He ended up winning, but I don't think he should have won. And I don't think he thinks he should have won, but he won. And that goes back to what we were saying before in the beginning of the show is, you know what? Sometimes you're just lucky. And before we recorded a couple of days ago, you and I talked, it's like, everybody who had an opportunity to win that race blew it, right? Tomac, Osborne, you could argue Baggett. He fell. It happens. Yeah, Tomac made a couple of mistakes, but overall, I like to see Osborne up front.
Hey,
he's obviously proven his speed.
How about Savachi winning this LCQ? What a surprise there!
Yeah, I know, right?
I thought for sure.
Well, how about
had something for him?
Yeah, how about him just being in the LCQ?
Oh, speaking of which, yeah. Oh, there I am walking off the track. Oh my God! So my group chat buddies were dying laughing afterward at the fact that they didn't see me crash, but they noticed like a second later my bike was still upside down on the track. By the time they look over to where I am, it's just like only 4 seconds have passed. I'm already over by the podium, which is on the other side of the track, like about to walk out. And they're like, how the heck did you
because they were there
and get there that quick? Yeah. Because I hit Tapia's bike, did a front flip, landed on my shoulder, rolled to my feet, and just speed walked right off the track. Didn't even look to see where my bike was. I just like started a speed walk right towards the medical rig. And they said they just waited a couple seconds and looked over, and I was like 300 feet from my bike already.
That's hilarious.
What were we talking about just before
How
that?
mad are you?
I was so freaking mad because, and I always put it on myself. Like, I don't blame Tevin for crashing in front of me. Tevin was having Tevin's race and he crashed. That's not his fault that it involved me. It's my fault that I was back behind those guys because my thought process was, okay, this track's gnarly. I don't want to get myself hurt. Let's take it easy. My one strong point was the whoops. I'm like, I'm just going to hit the whoops consistent every lap, go really, really slow everywhere else. So this set me back first couple laps because I was timid around everyone being around me. And as it started to space out and I realized how much faster I was than everybody else in the whoops, which was pretty cool. I just started hitting the whoops fast and passing people in the whoops and then going really slow the rest of the track and then passing people in the whoops. And then I caught up to Tapia. He was faster than me on the rest of the track, but I was so much faster than him in the whoops. I was still gaining on him quite a bit. He's going so, and I could say this because Tapia and I are friends. We just joke around. He was going so slow through the whoops that he was rolling them. And then he started rolling them too slow where like he was tipping side to side. And then he just tipped over. And I had so much speed going, skimming them right down the center. And it wasn't like I could dodge him one way or the other because he kept tipping one way or the other. So there was no way for me to dodge. And then once he fell smack dab in front of me and I hit him going so fast. And the way I landed was really as good as I could have. But like still with that being said, somebody could have tapped me on the shoulder and said like, good job, AJ, and just the tap on the shoulder would have hurt. So any type of impact was not going to be good. I was
Yeah.
pissed.
So I mean, no further damage, but obviously didn't help the recovery.
No, I don't think any further damage. I mean, I don't really know if there was damage to my rotator cuff or anything already. Obviously there is because it hurts so bad. But I don't know. I think it's fine. When I first impacted the ground, it was like I was saying, for that first 2 to 5 minutes, that thing, if I hadn't have felt it and known that there wasn't a bone popping out, I would have thought I had shattered my shoulder.
Ugh.
I thought for sure. As soon as I crashed, I was feeling. Like, first I held my wrist. I'm like, all right, I got to feel this thing. Like, where's my collarbone sticking out? And sure enough, it all felt fine. I'm like, oh, this is weird.
This is weird. Nice.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
dirt bikes. What else do you want to talk about?
Man, I mean, how about just going into Vegas? How do you think this whole thing is going to shake up? You have to wonder if there isn't something mystical in the air that will happen or cause some sort of shakeup in Vegas. We've seen it in the past where Vegas seems to bring out either the best or the worst of everybody. And you think back to that Osborne Championship, you have to wonder where Cooper Webb is going to fall into this mix, because what I guess could theoretically happen is what if something happens to Cooper Webb? What if? And Tomac somehow steals it. He hasn't clinched. It mathematically is possible. So,
dude, I would love nothing
Cooper
more
Webb's had a
than
lot
to
of
have just something crazy exciting happen for the last race. Not that I wish anyone to do badly, but there's just nothing more cool than when it comes down to the last round or the last couple laps. Like even 2 years ago, when Tomac purposely slowed up to bunch up the pack and then was messing with Dungey, like that was crazy to watch. Or like when Osborne crashed in the first turn and came through the pack and made that last lap pass on Sabachi. That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life, and just how loud that stadium was. Like I'll never forget that. That type of stuff is so cool.
All that's being said, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think Cooper Webb's going to get himself right where he needs to be, and he's going to walk away with this thing.
I agree. The way it's going.
And how crazy is that? I mean, when we started talking about Cooper Webb's momentum at the beginning of the season, nobody on the planet would have picked him to win the championship. And yet here we are.
Yeah. I know, right? I would have bet no amount of money on Cooper Webb. In fact, I would have laughed at you. If you said Cooper Webb, I would have been like, are you kidding me? Do you watch Supercross? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I think he would have said the same thing.
The craziest
I don't think he truly believed it going into the season. I mean, maybe he was in a slightly better mental state, but I highly doubt if somebody said he was going to win the championship, he would have been like, oh yeah, no question. We're here to win this thing.
Yep. I think, yeah. And for Tomac, again, it's another season that could have been, had he just, I don't know. I want to say ridden smart, but I don't think he's ridden dumb. I just think he just left so much on the table in the beginning of the season, so much. And he had those, mid-pack finishes. You have to wonder, like, was there something going on? I know at some point, didn't they confirm, like, he did have, like, a finger injury or something? There was something going on.
I think Tomac went into the season injured. Are we talking about Tomac
right
right now?
That's what it was. Yeah.
Back injury, I thought. I don't know. We don't know what we're talking about, guys. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure he revealed a few races in that he had, once he had won, I think. He's like, yeah, just want to let you guys know I was hurt all those other races. That's easy to say in hindsight once you come back and then win. You're like, oh yeah, guys, but I wasn't riding at 100% before. But I think that's what the case was. So I don't know. I accidentally clicked out of my DVR. Now I have highlights up on YouTube. Faulkner went for the jugular on Sexton on that first lap before the finish line. Holy cow.
Oh yeah.
He was aimed at Davalos' bike exiting the turn. Like he timed that perfect. And that was with his bad leg. That was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, his left leg. Yeah.
Dude.
Yep. But that's one of those things I come back to. True. Oh, I want to back up about that kind of weird double wall section. What was your main
Oh,
takeaway of that?
yeah,
Like,
I did want to talk about that stupid thing. So when we walked the track, that was a double. After the finish line, it was big. I was walking the track that particular section with Tomac, and we walk up the takeoff, and he just goes, "Holy shit!" and then he just keeps walking. I'm like, "Oh, okay. At least it's not just me that thinks this thing is terrifying." It was like this straight up takeoff right out of the turn, and the landing was, as you guys saw, they didn't really touch it. It was pretty much a vertical wall. Like it wasn't a forgiving landing, and this thing was long. On a 450, not long enough to be concerned as far as like, will I clear it or not? It was just would have been scary. On a 250, it probably would have been like outside, wide open, barely get over type of deal. And then after track walk, obviously they changed it. Another thing, they didn't tell us they changed it, which is BS. I thought that's what all those Feld meetings were supposed to be about. They didn't let anyone know that they changed it. And I think they changed it the wrong way. They turned it into a ski jump. So all it did was if you hit the corner fast enough, you would end up launching out into the face of that next steep thing, which ultimately is what took Faulkner out for the night. It would have been more safe if they turned it into just a legit wall that would slow you down and force you to roll down the backside of it.
right. Yeah, it was super weird.
But what do I know?
Weird. I don't know. It reminds me of that was it a double last year in Foxborough that you had came out of the corner and it was like in is either into the sun or there was like a big shadow, and that ended up being a pretty sketchy, pretty big jump too.
There was a triple.
Remember which one I'm talking about?
It was a massive triple, and it was right into the sun, and it landed in a sand section.
Yeah. Right.
I'm watching the main event highlights now. How about Zach Osborne? We didn't talk much about him.
I literally talked about Zach Osborne.
You did?
But you kept interrupting me.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I said you know, when we were talking about the guys who did have a chance to win this thing and then blew it, but it was good to see Zach Osborne up at the top. He obviously has some speed.
Yeah, and confidence too. He was fighting for it, like he was riding aggressive. Wasn't like he was just hanging on.
Yeah.
He had the best.
What does this mean for?
Too. Yeah, he looked good in the whoops.
Yeah, I really wonder what this means for Dean Wilson, because obviously Osborne is faster. He's had not that obviously Dean didn't race this weekend, but when Osborne has shown his speed, he's been faster than Wilson.
Yeah, but Wilson's shown the speed more often this season in Supercross at least. Granted, Osborne did come in late and
came off an injury.
Still, I mean, Wilson technically came off an injury starting the season, but he at least got to start the season at the beginning. I think you put them both out. I think Osborne's going to be a big threat outdoors, but I don't know. I mean, you wonder what all this does mean for Dean. Like, I don't know.
I mean, when is Anderson due to come back? Do we know?
I think outdoors. He's been riding.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine he's going to start up at round 1 for outdoors. But
which is where?
What's that noise? You shaving?
Can you hear that?
Yeah, it sounds like you're peeling an apple or shaving your beard or sharpening a pencil.
Gee, dude, I'm doing all of those things at once.
Oh, wow.
How the hell can you hear that? I was peeling tape. I'm like multitasking today.
Those were good guesses, weren't they?
Yeah, very good guesses. How the hell could you hear that? I don't get it.
Wow, how about Savacci's crash in the main?
I know.
Those bikes are
did we just talk about
good,
we talked about
he cased the crap out of that thing and didn't really crash that hard.
No.
Oh, man, he got lucky, and he got lucky when he flew into the fence, because that probably would have been a much harder crash if there was not a fence there.
Absolutely. He would have flown off the top of the berm and landed on flat concrete.
Yeah. Yikes. That was funny. I was talking to
I always find it interesting when the guys... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I always find it funny, like, you get the awareness to actually, like, let go of the bike and grab onto the fence.
I know it's not like
Yeah.
Savacci's ever experienced that in his lifetime, but he still like made that quick decision to just like spidey wall the fence. And you saw
Yeah.
Baggett do the same thing when it happened to him. That is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, I talked to that live announcer right after that, and if you watch the footage back, he was announcing like a foot away from where Savacci landed. So when Savacci landed, and he was telling me the story, he goes, "I was announcing like, oh man, and he's struggling, and he's stuck, and he's stuck," and he goes, "I was literally saying this to his face, looking at him." And I felt so bad not helping him. I was just announcing his situation.
Well, because he got really, really caught up on that tough block.
I go.
right?
You should have interviewed him while he was getting his bike out. You should have been like, "How's it feel? How are you going to approach getting this bike out of there?" And just held the mic up to his helmet. Could you imagine?
Oh, you know what, man? We suck so bad. My thoughts are so all over the place. But I was going to mention this. So, all the bikes right now, except for Suzuki, if I'm not mistaken, are electric start, right?
On the 450s,
Okay.
On the 250s, there's some kick.
Yep. So what I was gonna bring up was, you see Eli Tomac crash a couple times. You see these other guys get off their bikes. They're able to get right back on. And Tomac, I think they had him front and center like on TV, and he just like clicked it back on and off he went. Suzuki's got to be wondering, like, because there was, and I forgot who it was. We suck at facts. We suck at remembering. I get it. But there's a couple times this season where the Suzukis, they're kicking, and we couldn't get them started. And you got to wonder, now Suzuki really is at a competitive disadvantage without having electric start on their bikes. Everyone was kind of very slow to adapt the electric start.
Mhm.
Everyone was kind of complaining, adding the battery, adding the weight, blah, blah, blah. But now you're at the point where you really need an electric start, because you go down and those things fire right back up.
I think that all their eggs are in like the 2020 basket. They're supposed to have a new, like a all new 450 for 2020, I believe. So if that thing's not electric start and they don't have a ton of changes to that bike, then that's not good for them. But I imagine they must.
You see, 2020 KTMs are out now, which is, I mean, it's freaking
They're
April.
out?
They announced them. I don't know. What do you call that? I don't know if they're announced or released, but I don't think you can buy one yet. Yeah.
Huh. Are they the same? Probably.
Pretty good looking machine. I didn't look into too much of what was different or what was changed, whatever. It looks updated, it looks new and all that. Yep.
What else you got, buddy?
Well, I got some bike stuff to talk about. Some interesting bicycle information. I was reading yesterday. The one by, and for people who don't like mountain bikes or bicycling and just listen to this for AJ's good looks and Supercross analysis, we're gonna now bore you. But so I tease you about your 2x situation on your mountain bike.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And so specifically, this article that was about like how many watts are lost through a drivetrain, but also comparing like the wattage loss from a 2x bike drivetrain and a 1x. So a typical 1x on a mountain or cross bike, you average almost 13 watts lost between your pedaling and the rear wheel. 13 watts. So if you're measuring like 263 watts on your pedals, you're only getting 250 out of your rear wheel. That's the average loss due to friction from like the 1x cross training.
Okay.
A 2x, you lose only 9 watts because your chain line is pretty consistent, if you're picking the right gears. So there's less cross chaining, less friction in the drive chain. So you can save almost 4 watts of power by having a 2x.
If you're riding in the right gear.
Right. Yeah. It's all predicated on you having a pretty straight chain line. But
wow. Okay.
The theory
I never
is,
thought about that.
But I was surprised at how much wattage you actually lose through the drive chain.
That doesn't surprise me.
13 watts. I think that. I mean, I'm surprised by that. It's not something I didn't expect. Like I know you're gonna lose power through the mechanical stuff, but I feel like that's well relative to my power output. 13 watts is a pretty good number.
What's the percentage? 13 watts out of, let's just,
I don't know. About out of an average of what's like 265, 270. I don't know. I don't have a calculator and I'm not a math whiz, so you do it.
Google it. Not that much.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it right now.
It's enough.
I'm curious. No, that's not right. Point.
So you do 13 divided by 265 times 100.
That's
4.9%.
Oh, it is? Well, yeah, that's quite a bit.
So you're losing 5% of your power through the drivetrain.
It's quite a bit, and less if you're on a tube.
On average.
But I will say though, on my, I have yet to use the small chain ring on the front, and I've ridden it at some. I guess it's not Connecticut uphills, which kind of seem to go on and on and on. But there's some gnarly climbs, and I haven't had to use a small chain ring yet. Because I'm a beast.
That's good.
I'm a beast mostly. So for you average folks,
yeah, we'll see how much of a beast you are next week.
Yeah, so folks, we're doing a 100-miler on May 10th in Connecticut. If you'd like to join us, we will be starting in Glastonbury, Connecticut, and riding to Madison. Is that right?
Yeah, we're gonna go. We're gonna head. You're gonna do a big loop, end up at the shore, and come back.
100 miles, nice and easy. Probably not, though.
Yeah, nice and easy, he says.
We say that now.
You know, I would love for somebody, honestly, I would love for somebody who listens to this show, message us and say, I want to ride with you guys. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. It's a Friday. Let's take the day off work. It's supposed to be, is it supposed to be warm?
It's supposed to be warm. We'll keep our fingers crossed that there's no rain. I'm not doing it in the rain. I don't need to do it, so I'm not going to do it in the rain. But as long as it's not raining, it's happening.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Is anybody joining you at the camp the next day, the 11th? Any guess?
Oh, any guess? No, just myself. This is like a rider appreciation structure. So what I do is it's less riders first of all. It should be only about 18 to 20 of us, and it's a little bit more relaxed of a schedule, so they'll have more free ride time. And then we'll do games too. So we'll do like a balance game, which I'm still undefeated in, by the way, where you create a start and finish line, have the bikes off going down a hill, and it's last one to get to the finish line wins. So it's to see how slow and how long you could sit there and balance. Never been beat by a student. I offered a student at the last camp $200 so they could beat me. Couldn't do it. So we'll do that. We'll do like a relay race, a team relay race, which depending on the group of guys you get, if they're super into it, it actually gets really entertaining. And then I'll usually send myself last for one of the teams. So if one of the teams is getting smoked by the other guy, I'll just go out on the last lap. A couple of times it's come down to the last turn or last couple of turns, which is pretty funny. But it should be a good day. And you can still sign up for that one at ajcatanzaro.com. Rider Appreciation Day, so it's discounted rate. I think it's only $150 for the day. All day.
Not a bad deal.
Track time. Still learn a lot, even though it's more of a relaxed schedule. And the track at the Salinas house is absolutely amazing. I mean, you pull in the driveway, you walk over the nice grassy hill, and it's just all laid out right there in front of you. Super jumpy. So it's fun. You can kind of like make different rhythms out of stuff if you so choose.
I heard rumors, speaking about private tracks, I heard rumors that a certain part of your program / mental guru may be in the process of building something at somewhere nearby.
Oh.
Did you get wind of that?
I'm thinking of somebody named Jason, but it might be the wrong Jason.
No, so somewhere up. Yeah, Jay.
What?
I don't want to give too much away because I don't want people showing up at his house, expecting a track. But he's At least from what I've seen and what I've heard, he might be building a little something.
Oh, well, geez. Good luck, Jay, making that happen and where you live. Because unfortunately, I don't know.
You've been to his house? Like it's pretty rural. There's plenty of land. I don't think you'd get too many neighbor complaints or anything.
Yeah, maybe not. But it doesn't take much for somebody that lives a mile away to complain. Next thing you know, you're screwed. That's a tough place and a tough part of Connecticut to try to make that happen. I would love to, though. I mean, ever since Rocky
Just
Hill
get a fleet of electric bikes and you won't have an issue.
True. As long as you keep dust down, that'd be sick. Let's see.
Yeah. The prognosis for Connecticut riding really, really pretty shitty, huh?
Yeah, and luckily I grew up at a time where I really timed it perfectly. I mean, I had Rocky Hill when it was at its best. I had Moto-Town when they first made it, which was awesome. And I had Moto-Town pretty much exactly the time period I needed it before I turned pro and headed south during the winters anyway. We had a place called Beamers, which was in Portland, Glastonbury line, pretty much. It was in Portland. There was a couple dumps, like there was one in Meriden, which you could get away with riding at. There was the State Forest, another one in Portland. So I had two tracks in Portland, technically. That's crazy to think about. This was like a loop in the State Forest and insane track. Like I don't know if it was, I'm pretty sure it was like
completely illegal.
Yes, it had to have been, but I never saw a cop show up there. It had like sick jumps. Like that place, again, was at its prime. It was probably only open for a few years, and it was never open to the public. But like the guy that owned the adjacent house would invite me out. I had that. None of these places exist anymore. Moto-Town collapsed. Rocky Hill gone. Beamers is
so
actually
sad.
flooded now. I think the river is risen up and it's flooded. And the State Forest, he's just cut down trees and like fenced it off, and there's just no possible way to ride it. So it sucks.
I mean, it's really sad. Even like the woods riding here has gotten so bad. I mean, I've said it before. Like before I sold my last bike, one of the last experiences I had was ditching into somebody's shed. Literally didn't know this person. Didn't know if they were home, didn't know if they were a psychopath, but we had a DEP chasing us. They had us basically pinned between two power line entrances on a road. They had like one of their official vehicles, like road vehicles on one side. They had quads. They had like guys. Oh my gosh, yeah, yep. So we were trying to find a way out. There wasn't one because they had us like cordoned off in this like in between two roads and the power lines, and so our only option was to. Luckily, one of the guys that I was with knew somebody who lived off the power lines and had a shed, and we just literally took our bikes, pushed them into the shed. We opened up this random person's shed, like I had no idea, like got into the shed and hid in it, and like my buddy's trying to call this guy to just like make sure that it's cool. It was so weird, dude. It was so sketchy. Do you know if the
cops ever rode by or came and checked out the area?
Oh yeah, we were watching them. We were watching them from the window. But they just didn't know where we went because we turned our bikes off and we pushed them like off the trail into this guy's yard, and they were probably wondering where the hell we went.
That sounds exciting.
It was exciting until like then we got stranded there, and like Patrick, he ended up coming in his truck and threw a couple bikes in his truck, and then had to go back and get other vehicles. Like it turned out to be like an all-day thing. It was horrible. I'm like, you know what?
I don't think I've ever had to do that riding the trails. I know there's been a couple times I remember where I thought a cop was starting to come after me, and I was like far enough down the road where I just pinned it and took a couple sharp turns and shut my car off. But I never, like to this day, I don't know if they're ever even coming after me or if that was just like my imagination thinking that they were coming after me. But
it sucks that Connecticut is so unfriendly to anything off-road. Like they're not even really friendly to mountain biking. They give everybody a hard time for making any new trails, anything like at Herd Park or even at Case. Like you start cutting a new trail or building a jump, it's like you're going to get your ass chewed out, or you're going to get like, oh, they're going to threaten to close this or close that or whatever. It's like they're not friendly to anything off-road. It really sucks. You go up to Vermont, you go out west, like you have even like a little farther south, you have immaculate trail systems with like jump lines and everything is curated by, like Tim out in Seattle. They have like state employees that are literally just mountain bike trail maintenance guys, and they go out and they curate all the trails and they build all the jumps, and they like, it's sick. And like, that's what they do. Here, it's like, you want to cut a new trail? Oh, you're going to take that natural feature and make it into a drop off of a rock? Oh, no, you're going to go to jail. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. That does suck because there's so many worse things you could be doing. I could see it if we're in there chopping tree after tree after tree down and you're destroying like the forest, but just riding your dirt bike or bicycle through a trail that already exists. I mean, shoot.
Well, I think it's like the philosophy, like, and this is the sad part about the off-road community, like especially powerized vehicles. It's like, if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And so, like, I'll play devil's advocate for a second, and I will say that, and this was such a common experience for me in the places I was riding in Connecticut. You'd come across, we'd be all single file and riding single track on our dirt bikes, and then you'd come up to a group of razors and quads that have absolutely no business being in these tight ass trails where they are, and they just destroy everything. And it's stuff like that. Like, nothing against razors and quads if you have like the property to do it, but there's some single track trails in especially where we were riding, they had absolutely no business being. And then you have all the a-holes that don't have any respect for other people's property and take their bikes up on into people's yards and all that. True. And there was a place there was some, like, pretty recently, maybe in the last couple months, like some kids like went onto a golf course in Connecticut, like a beautiful, millions of dollars of golf course, and took dirt bikes.
You wonder what would possess somebody to do that. Somebody did that in Portland.
You're just an asshole.
A while ago. Somebody I think I went to school with. It's like, well, I don't get it. Like, what satisfaction would you get?
Ruin it for literally everyone.
Yeah, it just doesn't. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yep.
Well, all right. At least we're talking. We're doing a podcast. It's hour 10 minutes. No, hour 10 minutes. 110 minutes. So what is that? Oh, almost 2 hours.
Hour and 40. Hour 40.
I think it's an hour 50.
If people have listened to this long, I really question what the hell they're doing with their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Go get a life, people. Turn this off.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ride my bicycle.
Anything else? Oh, yeah. Go do that.
The sun's out. So I'm going to go pedal.
Good. When do you leave for Vegas?
Tomorrow night. I don't land until 10 p.m., which is the latest I've ever got in on a Friday. But I didn't really have any good flight options. So I'll do a bike ride tomorrow, and then Allie gets to work a full day of work. We fly out, and then I think we end up flying home on a red-eye Sunday night. So we'll have Saturday night to go out and gamble, and Sunday we'll just hang at the pool or something. Oh, I think we're indoor skydiving, too, on Sunday. So
that's sick.
Shout out.
There's one right near you, by the way.
Also Connor's mom for hooking us up with that. There's one right by me. Is that awesome? Yeah, there's one right down the road.
Yep, my brother went to it.
And I see it every day, but I just never gone to it.
I would go to that. I want to do that.
Have you been real skydiving?
No, I have not.
Seems fun. I don't know why I haven't done it yet. I feel like I'm being really picky about the location where I do it, and I don't think that matters at all. It's more so like for the effect of when I tell the story after the fact, I want the story to sound cool. So I'm like saving it. When I was in Dubai, I'm like, oh, this would be a cool place to say I went skydiving. And we just didn't have enough time. Not to mention, it's kind of expensive.
Very expensive for what it is.
I mean, you're just jumping out of a plane.
See, it's shitty because I would want to base jump, and you can't base jump until you do a hell of a lot of skydiving.
Yeah, base jumping, I don't know if I'd want to mess with that, honestly.
See, I think that would be like less I mean, I know it's way more dangerous, but for some reason, mentally, I would have way less of a problem like running off a cliff and pulling a chute than jumping out of a plane. See, I don't know. Like, no. I'm not necessarily scared of either one, but like I think it would be more fun to do the base jump.
Oh, it's more exhilarating. And that sounds crazy because jumping out of a plane should be exhilarating. I just pictured jumping out of a plane being a little bit less crazy than people make it out to be. I mean, you're so high up that I don't think your mind even associates you with like the potential of you hitting the ground that yet when you're that high up. Where when you jump off and you're base jumping, you could see the ground even though it's far away. Like you, that's
there's no time
scary.
for errors.
Yeah. And you're skydiving. You have 2 chutes. You have not plenty of time, but you have time. Or base jumping.
Have you seen that guy who I don't know his name? I should. The dude who just sends it on dirt bikes like off of sand dunes, like unbelievably high, but he'll pull the chute and like it does not look like he should have enough time to.
And dude, like what if your bike like stutters going off the takeoff or like you bog a little bit and you still jump like 500 feet, but it's not quite high enough to pull the chute? Like
I know. And it's not like I know a lot of people have done it off of cliffs. This guy just like launches a sand dune. Like it's not a cliff. He just like sends it off of a freaking dune and he's high enough to pull the chute.
That is insane.
And it's what's got to
how do you test that?
It's
you don't,
insane.
Other than just going for it.
You just freaking send it. And what's crazy is like what puts it in perspective sometimes is like the bike never makes it out okay. Like he has a chute on it, but it just has absolutely no time to deploy the chute. Like it always hits the ground way too hard. And you're like,
I know. I saw the last video he did. He was able to finally get the bike to land without wrecking it. And it was like still rideable afterward. But yeah, I mean, it gives you perspective because the chute will open like 2 last minute and the thing will still break apart into 10 different pieces. And you're like, okay, that's a whole nother level. Skydiving doesn't really scare me all that much, I guess. Seems like it'd be fun. I would do it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. It's easy for us to say. It's not scary.
I know. I know. Who knows? Maybe I'd get up there and I'd pee my pants.
Yeah. All right. We're rambling. We'll let these nice people turn their radios off.
Yeah, I think that's it. Do I have anything else?
Yep. Hey, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to us ramble on. We somehow managed to fill a lot of time with absolutely nothing, and we appreciate you listening to it all. And for that appreciation, again, we'll give you that FXR code. 30% off all FXR gear. AC FXR MX80. AC FXR MX80. 30% off FXR gear. Pick yourself up a nice kit for the upcoming season and look super fresh out on the track as AJ does every single weekend. So thank you everybody for listening, and we wish you luck, AJ, this weekend.
Thanks, sir. Phone's at 2%. Gotta roll.
Oh, beautiful. Adios, amigo.